In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make the perfect party egusi soup. And since egusi soup goes best with pounded yam, I'm also going to show you how to make the most lush and perfect pounded yam. So sit back and let's get started. I'm using a mix of goat meat and beef for the soup, and I always start by boiling the meat. As you can see, we're off to a really great start. So I'm going to season the meat with some onion, salt, and beef seasoning cubes. I added a little bit of water, and I'm going to cover this and allow it steam. I'm also going to use some pomo, which is cow skin, and some shaki, also known as tripe. And I usually just cook this in bulk and store in the freezer for when I'm ready to use. Make sure you wash the inside and the outside of the pomo really well before boiling. And I boil this with the same ingredients as I did with the beef, which is just onion, salt, and some beef seasoning cubes. Add lots of water and cook for about 40 minutes or until the meat is soft. And I usually boil this separately because sometimes the flavor can be a bit overpowering and I don't want it to take over the soup. While that's cooking, I'll check on the other meat and I'm going to add more water so it can cook fully. It should take about 20 minutes to fully cook, but that depends on the type of goat meat you're using. Some type of goat meat will usually take a longer time to cook, so keep that in mind. While the meat is cooking, I like to prep the other ingredients I'll need for the soup. I'll be adding some smoked fish to the soup. The smoked fish is going to give it a nice depth of smoky flavor, and it's also just fun to pick out little pieces of fish when you're eating. To prep the smoked fish, add hot water and then cover and allow it steam for about 5 to 10 minutes. After it has steamed, drain the hot water and then debone the fish. Some people also like to take the skin off. For me, I really like the skin, so I always include it. I'll also prepare the egusi, which is the main ingredient of this dish. The egusi is already blended, so I'm going to add a bit of the meat stock and then mix. Make sure you don't add too much of the meat stock, or if you're using water, make sure you don't add too much water because we want a really thick paste. You can get egusi at most African or Nigerian stores. Egusi is also known as melon seeds, and you can get the whole one or the ground one. After mixing the egusi, set the paste aside and then we're going to continue prepping the other ingredients. For the base of the soup, I'm going to blend some bell peppers, habanero pepper, and onion. The habanero pepper is a bit spicy, so if you're not used to spicy food, you want to halve that or even just add a quarter. You can also use the English bell pepper, which is what I'm using, or the local one also known as tatashe. If you're using tatashe, make sure you take out the seeds and the strings inside so your soup doesn't turn out bitter. For the vegetables, I'll also be using some bitter leaf. Here I have some frozen bitter leaves, so I'm just going to leave that out to thaw. I'll also be using some fresh spinach, so I'm just going to wash this. If you don't like spinach, you can definitely replace that with your favorite leafy vegetable. I like to wash my vegetables twice. This spinach was particularly really dirty, so I washed the leaves individually and then I cut it into small, really small pieces. And after cutting, I just went over it a couple more times. For the second wash, I'll transfer the chopped spinach to a bowl, add lots of water, and then I'm just going to use my hands to scoop out the vegetable. I'm doing this in case there's any sand left in the vegetable. Like I mentioned, this bunch was really dirty, so if there's any sand left after slicing, it's going to sink to the bottom and then I can have my sand-free vegetables at the top. My bitter leaf has fully thawed, so I'm going to slice this into small bits. The bitter leaf has been fully washed, so it's no longer bitter, just very slightly. I'll probably do a video in the future on how to properly wash your bitter leaf. I found a little uziza leaf in my freezer, and uziza is my absolute best vegetable to add in egusi soup. So I just chopped that up into small pieces, and I'm going to add that later. Finally, for the prep, the pomo is fully cooked, so I'm going to cut this into small pieces. You can also leave it whole and add the large pomo directly to the soup. I prefer to cut it because I like to get the little pieces of pomo when I'm eating. Now that all the prep work is finished, we're going to assemble everything and make the soup. Start by heating up some palm oil and then fry some chopped onions and iru. Iru is also known as locust beans or dawa dawa. If you don't like iru, you can definitely leave it out. Fry the iru and onion for a few minutes and then add the pepper mix. Next, season with just a little beef seasoning cube, and then we're going to fry this for about 10 minutes. I use a lot of oil when making egusi because that's how to make it the traditional way, but if you want to reduce the amount of oil, that's fine too. Fry until it changes color slightly, and then add some of the meat stock from the beef and goat meat. Give this a good mix. If you don't have enough meat stock, you can add water. Allow the base come to a boil and then add the egusi paste. Add the egusi paste in little chunks like this, almost as if you're making akara. If you like lumpy egusi or party style egusi soup, this will be the best method to achieve that. Egusi is one of those soups that has so many different ways to make it. I've made it so many different ways over the years, and this is my favorite method and my go-to method when I want to make lumpy egusi. After adding the egusi, cover and allow to cook for about 15 minutes on low-medium heat. Egusi soaks up water and burns easily, so make sure you have enough water before covering and make sure you're doing this on low heat. Mix and break apart the clumps of egusi and then add more water or meat stock. Next, add the smoked fish bits, the meat and the remaining stock, and then add some crayfish powder. Also, don't forget the remaining obstruction, which is the pomo and the shaki. So add that and then give the soup a really good mix. The soup is almost ready. At this time, I like to taste and then adjust the seasoning if needed. I added a little bit of pepper, like hot chili pepper, and then a little salt to taste. Give this another mix and then we're going to go ahead and add the vegetables. I like to add the bitter leaf first because this is on the tougher side, and then I add the uziza leaf. I'll add a bit more water. The egusi constantly soaks up the water, so you need to add water every now and then when you see that the soup is too thick. Cover and allow to cook for a few minutes so the vegetables and the soup really come together well. Finally, I'll add the chopped spinach. The spinach cooks really fast, so that's why I'm adding it last. And the spinach is mostly to give the soup a really nice, fresh and vibrant color. And spinach also adds a lot of nutrients, so I always like to include it. Give the soup one final mix to spread out the vegetables evenly. If there are any large clumps of egusi, you can break that up. Some people like to eat the clumps of egusi. I don't really like the big clumps, so I always break that into really small clumps. The spinach only needs about 2 to 3 minutes to cook. Once it's cooked, your egusi soup is ready. This egusi soup was absolutely delicious. Like, I can't even explain how good it was. I served this with some poundo yam, and to make the poundo yam, start by adding water to a pot. When you're done, cover the pot and allow the water come to a boil. When the water is hot and boiling, go ahead and add your poundo yam powder. Add the poundo yam powder gradually while stirring. Add enough of the powder until the mix starts to thicken, and then continue mixing using the wooden stick. I'll usually mix this for about 5 minutes until it's smooth, and then when it's smooth, I'll add some hot water to it. After adding the hot water, I'll cover it and allow to cook for about 5 to 10 minutes on low heat. And the reason for this is so the poundo yam cooks really well and it doesn't have a raw taste. After about 5 minutes, the poundo yam should be cooked, so I'm just going to continue turning this with a wooden stick. If you like your poundo yam on the softer side, you can add a bit more water and then continue to mix. After a few minutes of mixing, the poundo yam is done. You'll know it's done when it's nice and elastic like this. Go ahead and scrape the stick so you don't waste any of it, and then proceed to serve. To serve this, wet your plastic scoop so it comes out really easily. If you're not eating it immediately, you can wrap this in a plastic wrap like this. Also, if you're not ready to eat this immediately, you can make the poundo yam a bit softer so when you're ready to eat, it will be perfect. After wrapping, you can store this in a cooler or a sealed container. If you're eating this immediately, go ahead and scoop out directly from the pot. Always dip your scoop in room temperature water before scooping out for a flawless finish. Serve with your piping hot egusi soup and enjoy. If you found this video helpful, let me know. If you have any questions about this recipe, don't hesitate to leave me a comment or send me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram name is Kiki Foodies. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And if you're already subscribed, thanks for subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.